This widower, he didn't treat his wife real well when they were together, and then after she passed away, he was shocked that he missed her so much. In fact, he was completely miserable without her, and so much so that he went and sought out a medium to try to communicate with her in the other world. Well, he found somebody, and they got in a little room, and they had the little glass ball and the darkened, the velvet table and all those things. And the medium was calling out to his ex-wife, his former wife, and sure enough, her voice sounded in the room, and he was so excited. Oh, I've made contact. And so he calls out, "Are you happy?" And the wife responds, "Oh, yes, I'm very happy." "Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Are you happier now than when we were married?" "Oh, yes, I'm much happier now than when we were together, yes." And he said, "I'm so happy to hear that. Heaven must be a wonderful place." She said, "I'm not in heaven." Okay, that's how miserable she was. Good. Okay. It's really bad when you have to follow up the joke with an explanation, don't you? That's the end of that, right? Okay. Okay, so we're talking about marriage and the five commitments to guarantee your marriage for life. The 5 commitments. And so 2 Sundays ago, we talked about seek God. Then last Sunday, we talked about fight fair. And then this Sunday, we're going to talk about have fun. Next Sunday, it's stay pure. And the last Sunday is going to be never give up. All right, so let's go through those 5 again. Ready? So we start out, seek God, fight fair, have fun, stay pure, never give up. Okay, did you guys enjoy listening to a couple of us? So let's all get in there and let's add some volume to our 5 commitments. Let's do it together like a big Mormon tabernacle choir, like they were, right? They're all standing there. We won't make you guys wear black robes, but let's do it, okay? So our 5 commitments are seek God, fight fair, have fun, stay pure, never give up. Very good. You guys make a great choir. Thank you very much. Well, today, of course, we're talking about have fun, bringing joy into a marriage. You've got to have joy in a marriage, don't you? So here's a verse from Ecclesiastes. Some of you know that Ecclesiastes is kind of a depressing book in a way. It's an interesting book, but it kind of takes an ironic kind of twist to life, that life is all meaningless, and how do we find meaning in it? And so the verse that we're going to look at to begin with is here. Enjoy life with the woman whom you love all the days of your fleeting life, which he has given to you under the sun. For this is your reward in life, and in your toil in which you have labored under the sun. So the basic idea of this, enjoy your wife while you have the days. Enjoy your spouse while you are toiling under the sun, which is a common refrain that Ecclesiastes, probably Solomon, would echo through there. Every relationship, whether married or unmarried, whether between family members or co-workers, it's enriched tremendously by bringing joy, happiness into the relationship. God wants you and I to be people who bring joy into a relationship. There's a lot of benefits, aren't there, to laughing and getting along and happiness. I like something that Milton Berle, I'm not old enough to remember Milton Berle. I don't know if anybody else here is, but he often said that laughter is an instant vacation. Isn't that right? I thought, what a great statement. Jay Leno, some of you are not old enough to remember Jay Leno. You'd be pretty young maybe. But what did Jay Leno kind of said the same thing. He said, you can't stay mad at somebody if they make you laugh. Isn't that right? You can't stay mad at them if they make you laugh. That's so true. And then we move through the comedians trying to understand this, and one that we all used to like, but now we're kind of shaky about, Bill Cosby. And I liked what he said, though. He said, if you can find humor in anything, even poverty, you can survive it. Isn't that good? If you can find humor in anything. And a lot of times, the people that have gone through the most stressful, most terrifying times in life, they talk about that, looking for the humor in it. And then they say, you know what, that's what got me through it. Looking for the fun, looking for what made me laugh throughout the experience. And I don't think it can be any different in a marriage when we look for the happiness, the joy in it that we have. It's not that hard to find joy in a marriage because it was there at one point. So it's not like it's never existed. At some point in your dating life and in your engagement, and maybe even soon after the wedding, or maybe the honeymoon, that the whole time, there was a period of time where you were really happy, where you were really entertained and you had a great time together. So it's not hard to say, yes, it can happen. It has happened. Who here went on their first date and came back from their first date and they said, oh, man alive, I think I found the one. Man, I picked her up at her house and I took her to a great restaurant and she ordered the most expensive item on the menu and didn't touch a thing. She bored me all the way through, wouldn't talk to me. I saw the back of her head more than I did the front. She complained about my car. We got to the movie theater. She hated the movie. It was too cold. I tell you what, this is the one for me. I cannot wait to ask her to marry me. I just know she's the one. Right? Is that how it starts? Nobody ever does that. Like, what girl ever goes out with a guy saying, oh, what a bore. My lands, I feel like I've been to a 12-hour funeral whenever I'm with him. Oh my gosh. I feel nauseous just sitting next to him. Can I sit farther from him? I can't wait till he asks me to marry him. Oh, what a dream come true it's going to be for me. Right? That's not how it works. You can't do that. At some point, the person that you're married to, they brought a lot of joy into your life. And that's where we go. We go back to that. We look for that. What were you doing? What kind of things were going through? What was happening in those days? What is it that happens, honestly, what is it that happens that causes you and I to lose the romance of our marriage and kind of transition, unfortunately, into more of a business partnership or roommate situation? How do we lose that? Well, there's lots of ways to lose it. I'll just share two of them that some people might be able to relate to. The first one is when one of the partners, or maybe both, the husband or the wife, their heart becomes closed to the other. An open heart is a heart that says, hey, let's go with this. Let's try this thing out. Let's see how far. Let's have a good time. I feel safe with you. It's going to be okay. That's an open heart. A closed heart is a heart that's been a victim of anger. It's become numb. It's become distant. It's become disconnected from that's a closed heart. There's not really a whole lot that can happen when there's a closed heart. Another thing that causes us to drift away from romance and into we're just here living together kind of an existence. That's when you expected somebody, your spouse, to be your source of life. When you got all excited and you're thinking, oh man, I have her. She is going to be my everything. Or I have him. He's going to complete me. Isn't that funny? But we're taught that, aren't we? That the spouse is just going to do everything for us. But what happens when your spouse is the source of your life? Inevitably, your spouse will also become the source of your problem. Yeah, you can't keep one away from the other. God never intended that your spouse would be the source of your life, because God knows that the source of your life, if your spouse, is going to fail you and be very disappointed. And so when your spouse is the source of your problem, what happens is you become dependent on them for a solution. And when you're dependent on them for a solution, any breakthrough hinges on what your spouse does. And God has never asked us to depend on somebody else for our sense of security, our sense of happiness, our sense of joy. God has always said, I am in first place in your life. Depend on me for your security. Depend on me for things to not be afraid of. Depend on me for your sense of victory in the world, the sense that you're going to be okay, for security and assurance. Depend on me. God is our source of life, and that is a very safe source of life. Why? Because God never fails us. And when we go to God and we make him our source of life, we completely miss that whole problem issue. It's become between us and God is the faithful one to always help us. Now, those are some things that draw us apart. But let me give you a quick formula for what brings the happiness and brings the romance into a marriage very quickly. It's just 3 little words, very simple. Honor and enjoyment and priority. When you honor your spouse, when you enjoy your spouse, and when you prioritize your spouse over other things, you give them priority, that there is the mix needed to bring joy and happiness back into a marriage, or keep it in a marriage. Or it's a great foundation to move forward into a new marriage with. Honor, enjoy, and priority. Give them their priority. Okay, I want to talk about 3 ways in which we take them. These are in the notes. The first one is, the important thing is in our relationship is to meet face to face. Face to face. That's very, very important. And what do I mean by that? I would think at least daily, that one or the other would take the time to come and say, hey, what's going on in your day? What's happening in your life right now? It's amazing how much can happen in somebody's life that you don't have any clue about, and you live with them. If you don't take the time to approach them and listen to them and be interested, you're going to grow apart. It's inevitable. But taking that daily exercise to go spend as much time as possible listening and catching up, that draws you close. I have a Bible verse here from Song of Solomon. Now, a lot of people, they get very nervous when the pastor says he's going to quote from Song of Solomon. And yes, be nervous because it is coming. And this is what it says. This is a guy who's meeting his wife face to face, okay? And this is where he begins. How beautiful your sandaled feet, O princess daughter. Your graceful legs are like jewels. You get where this is going? We're starting with the feet, and now we're up to the legs. Your navel, your navel is like a rounded goblet that never lacks blended wine. Okay? Back in those days, hey, blended wine inside the belly button, that was something, okay? Maybe that's something in the future we'll discover. Most of us probably don't know what that is right now. Now here's something that's interesting, right? Your waist is a mound of wheat encircled by lilies. Okay, I don't know any woman who would appreciate their waist being compared to a mound of anything, but this was very flattering, okay? He noticed the beauty of this. Your breasts are like 2 fawns, twins of a gazelle. He sounds surprised that there's 2 of them. We'll move right along. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes are the pools of Heshbon by the gate of Bath Ribbon. Oh, isn't that something? It must be, I imagine the waters were very blue or something, right? But whatever it was, this guy's noticing the details about her. And he's appreciating, he's describing the different things. It's just not, oh yeah, you look fine. No, he says this, he says that. He enjoys her, he's looking for the details. And that's very important in our relationship, that face-to-face time. That face-to-face time where, you just let the world big bang itself into oblivion, and your world is the only thing that exists with her or him. And you just give that attention, and that's where you go. That's the first thing. And that's where we start. Okay, the second thing that we're going to see here is wonderful. It's being side by side. Side by side. And I would think at least once a week, we would say, hey, let's go do this. Let's go have some fun together. Let's go here. Let's go there. And side by side, what does that mean? Well, if you both have something you enjoy doing, then go do the thing that you both enjoy doing. I know a lot of couples in our church absolutely love going to sporting events. And boy, aren't we lucky to live in the Bay Area where we have every sport you can imagine, and then our teams do extremely well? Well, what do you want to go see? There's a beautiful stadium and it's full, and you can go see it and have a great time. Do you like restaurants? My lands, where could you go in the world that's comparable to the Bay Area and the restaurants and the culinary experiences? It's fantastic. Do you like history? Do you like museums? Do you like the arts? Do you like music? What do you like? We live in a fantastic place. You can't imagine how lucky we are to live here and not in so many other places where we just have all these great things to do together. But let's say you don't have anything you like to do together. What do you do then? Well, that's all very common too. Then what you do is you go to your spouse and you find out and you look and you discover and you listen very carefully. What do they like to do? And you go do that very thing. You go side by side. That's the most important. You go and you have fun. You know, one of the strange things about me is I don't mind going to the mall and going shopping. Now, I know that sounds strange, and I think it's kind of strange too, because I'm the only guy I know that actually enjoys that kind of a thing. But we went in one store that just shocked me. It was like the greatest store ever. And it was a women's clothing store, but I had read online through some advertising that they were doing, or a news report about it, I can't remember. But they said they had a husband's couch. A husband's couch in a woman's clothing store? And so next time we went, I said, the little girl, I said, hey, excuse me, where is the husband's couch? Oh, it's right along here. And she took me back behind the dressing room area, and sure enough, there's a couch with two other guys sitting on it. Hey, guys, how you doing? Hey, we're here waiting. You? Well, yeah, I'm waiting too. We all sat down. It was a very comfortable couch. It was great. It was a good time. But going and finding, hey, what is it you want to do? Going and that's the important thing. That's the value of being together, living through life together, experiencing these things together. You know, the Bible verse I'm going to show you here, right in the same part of Song of Solomon, it sounds like they went to Napa. How many of you have gone to Napa with your spouse? What a great place to go. Because look what it says. Come, my lover, let us go to the countryside. Let us spend the night in the villages. That'd be Sonoma. Let us go early to the vineyards. That would be to ride the hot air balloon. To see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates, I don't know if they have pomegranates, are in bloom. That said, hey, let's go do this thing together. That's what it's about. It's bringing together, it's bringing that time, bringing that romance. You spend time together, that's a healing of the relationship. That's a renewing of the relationship. Spending time side by side, having a good time. That's growing together. That's how those times happen. You expose yourself to things that aren't so common, you're going to find something fun. You're going to find something that's going to make you laugh. Go with somebody that makes you laugh. Regardless of spending that time together, it just enriches your relationship. And I would really encourage you, at least once a week, try to do something like that where you have some time. I had a couple in our church in Los Angeles. This couple, my lands, if there's anybody that had bad luck, it'd be this couple. Oh my, every aspect of their lives was miserable. And I used to just be overwhelmed by the trouble they experienced in their lives. And secretly, I was so curious about how their marriage stayed intact. Because anybody else going through what they went through, they would have been separated a long time before, just because of the trauma level of the things they experienced. But one time as I was talking to them, they mentioned their walk. And I thought, well, that's strange. What do you mean your walk? Oh, yeah, it says every evening we take a walk, about 3 miles before we come home. And then it just, bing, little light went on. I said, oh, there's the secret. There's the secret. Side by side, they took a 3-mile walk, took about an hour to come back and realize, okay, I get it. You guys take time every day to debrief, to talk about your feelings, to work through this thing together, to re-strategize how we're going to deal with this. No wonder your marriage is intact. No wonder it's so strong. And I've remembered that. What a great secret that was. But I want to bring your attention back because we're going to look at this verse. And notice how it starts early in the morning. They all go up to Napa and they have a great time and everything's in bloom and everything's wonderful, which takes us to our third one. So we start with face to face, and then we go side to side. And then our third one is we go belly button to belly button, right? And so that's the progression of this thing. So what we see here is the same verse, except last time at the end of the verse, I left 3 dots. Oh, what could the rest of the verse say? Now you guys are going to know. And here we go. Come, my lover, let us go to Napa. Let us spend the night in Sonoma. Let us go early to the vineyards and take the hot air balloon ride and see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if they're starting to grow pomegranates here now. There I will give you my love. Huh? That's what's happening. They start very early. They've built a relationship. They're continuing. And now, they're going to have the thing that brings people together. I tell you, intimacy among a husband and a wife is the glue that God gives us to cause us to grow closer to each other. That's why the Bible is so adamant about not having sex outside of marriage. People don't understand that. They think, well, why? What difference does it make? Everybody does it. What's the big deal? It's because for thousands of years now, we have learned, and the Bible reminds us constantly, sex outside of marriage goes against what the brain does in a sexual relationship. And this is what it does. Whenever you have sex, the wires, more happens in your brain than you can ever imagine. It says, this is the person I want to love. This is the person I want to be committed to. This is the person I want to be tied with. This is the person I want to spend my whole life with. That's what goes on in your brain. And so when you say, oh no, I just want to have this sexual relationship for my own good, you are contradicting and you're kind of denying the reality of what is going on, how your brain has been pre-programmed to respond to sexual intimacy. And that creates such a division and such a tear. Inevitably, your heart becomes broken until you retrain and rewire your brain to say, no, whenever I have sexual intimacy with somebody, my heart will not desire them. It's only for my pleasure. I don't care who they are. And you say that over and over and over. Now you've rewired your brain, it's on some level, against what God has designed to give you the most joy in life. And once your brain is rewired and the person appears who you do want to marry, unfortunately, you're way behind. You're deep in a hole trying to come back to say, hey, brain, let's go back to the way God designed it. Let's go back to the natural way, the way it's supposed to be. And let's allow the sexual intimacy to draw us, to be the glue that makes us tight together. Let it result in a close relationship. You know, that's the best thing. That's the greatest gift you can give yourself and to give to somebody else, is to withhold the sexual intimacy until there's that commitment, a lifelong commitment of you're the one, and I'm going to let God do what he needs to do in my brain in any way he desires to do it, but I'm going to give him the boundary to just bring us, keep us close together. That is a recipe for a very happy marriage right there, to do that. Now I know, and we'll talk about this in just a moment, that sometimes it is a little bit of a journey back. And I want to say that yes, God can bring it back. But boy, it takes a lot of effort. It's not the scenic route that God designed for it to be. With that being said, I want to share with you, now I want to pretty much just speak to the guys for just a moment. Just guys. Now, you know this is going to be good, right? So guys, one of the things that we have to remember is that we are really the only legitimate option that our wife has to have all of her needs met. Her emotional needs, her physical needs, her intellectual. God has given you to her in an effort to satisfy that. Anything else, she goes outside of that. It's more on the sin side of it. But you are there to do that. Then I want to say a second thing to guys. A lot of the sexual intimacy has a whole lot to do with our approach. I think it's pretty safe to say guys desire sexual intimacy far more than most females. And I think most people say, yeah, that's probably the way it is. It's probably true. That's the way, for some reason, that God has designed that. I would like to question God on that choice, that decision, but regardless, it is what it is, isn't it? And that's what it's given us. And guys, start very early, early in the morning. Make it a whole day, a whole week thing maybe. But start early. Be tender. Bring a gift. Do something. Pay a lot of attention. Notice when we use the words pay attention, we use that phrase because that's exactly what it is. Pay attention. It means give up something so you can have something else. Exchange something there so you can now have her attention. Pay what you need to pay so you can earn that attention. Bring some variety to it. Guys crack me up. Guys, they'll just interrupt the poor wife's day. Stand there. Hey, baby. You just won the lottery of love. Here I am. And what does the wife do? Rolls her eyes and feels nauseous. Right? Oh! Right? That's what happens. Okay, women, I will now speak to you. You are the only legitimate answer to your husband's needs. Anything outside of you don't want happening, and anything outside is putting him in a position of sin. Not that you're causing it, but that's the only side. You are the only legitimate way that he can do what satisfy the needs that he feels he has. And I don't mean just sexual intimacy, but also social, intellectual, emotional, all that. Just as he is to you, you are to him. And that's very important. For a guy, when the faucet is turned off, it's crisis time. I don't think sometimes women understand that what a drought will do to a husband. It's not our fault, honestly. God has designed the man in such a way that it's a big deal. And I would say, just as we talked about in a man, how it's all about the approach, in a woman, it's the exact same thing. Isn't it funny? I've got all of your attention. This is really amazing. I got everybody looking at me. I don't think I ever remembered this. Let's move on. With a woman, it's the same thing. It's all about the approach. Well, any approach, really. Just any approach. Stand there and say, well, here I am. That's good enough. That's good enough. Okay, sounds good to me. Yeah, let's go. Isn't that right? That's good enough. Just any approach will work. But that is something that God will use. That will build the fun. That will build the success. That will build the bond and the intimacy of the marriage. Let God have his way in that and be open to what God wants to do. I really encourage you for that. Lots of times, both of us, men and women, we always go back to how we feel. Oh, I feel like this. I feel like that. But our feelings are not to direct our actions. Much the opposite. Our feelings are to follow our action. They always follow our action. First comes the behavior. First comes the action. First comes what you do. And following in line with that is your feelings realign according to your actions. That's how it is. Do the right thing. And then all of a sudden you'll start feeling good about it. Do what God has called you to do. Do what God has put on your heart to do. Be the servant. Be the one who gives. Be the one who's interested in the other. And it's amazing. You start off saying, well, I don't feel like it. That doesn't feel like a really good idea to me. Yeah, no, it probably doesn't. But you know what? Once you start doing what God wants you, you'll be amazed at how your feelings just kind of align themselves, just follow so closely to what God's leading you to do. And after all, you say, you know what? Hey, I feel really great about this. This is really good. This is a good time. Thank you, Lord, for doing that. I keep going back in my mind that whenever I face like an impossible situation, and I know sometimes all of us go through a period of time where we just think, oh no, this is the end for me. This is the end. I just feel so empty. I just feel so drained. I feel so hopeless and so much despair in this. I feel there's really nothing that can ever really come through. I like to go back to when the angel visited Mary before Jesus was born. And Mary was saying, how could I ever give birth? I don't even have a husband. I've never had sexual intimacy. How could I ever? And what did the angel say to Mary? Oh yeah, you're right, Mary. With man, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. Are you trying to make your wife the source of your life and she does this, she does that for you to be happy? Are you trying to do that to your husband? That's going to be disappointing. How's that going to work out for you? You can kind of predict that one. But boy, when you come into an impossible situation, that's the moment to back off and say, yeah, with a woman, with a man, with a husband, with a wife, it is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. To bring the joy, to bring the happiness back into a marriage, to get it back, to be a bringer of joy, to bring someone who presents the joy and brings that's what God's called us to do in our relationships with our wives, with our relationships with our husbands, that we would be the ones who bring the joy, not our joy, but the joy from our relationship with God, that we would be a channel, that we would be even a funnel or a hose, if you will. This is the joy that God gives my heart that overflows, and I want to share it with you. That is a true joy. That's a meaningful joy that will help guarantee your marriage for a lifetime, for an entire lifetime. I like what a socialite in New York City said. She's already passed away. It was Mignon McLaughlin, and she had a lot of funny little phrases, but one of them was a happy marriage is a marriage where you fall in love over and over again with the same person. I like that. We fall in love over and over again with the same person. That just lines up to me what all the scriptures say, what all the testimony of the saints who have sought God's presence in God's life. That's what it means to be a source of joy and happiness. Who wants to be in a happy marriage, a joy-filled marriage? I do, right? We all do. Then take responsibility to bring the joy in. Don't put that expectation on somebody else, but you take the responsibility to bring the joy to a marriage as God would have it. Let us pray.